Okay, so I am very excited to be interviewing Tariq Azmi, and the co-founder of Ember Technologies and many other companies, which you're going to be telling us about today. And thank you so much for joining us. And what I've found is people that are the most successful are usually very willing, like yourself, to share with others. And I want to thank you for that. So I'll just go ahead and dive right in and ask you our first question. So How do you describe what you do at Ember Technologies, and how long have you been in business?
So at Ember Technology, we have been in business for almost about 5 years now. And our focus has been more onto the security and the compliances of the technology. One that is everybody familiar with is the healthcare compliance, that is the HIPAA compliance. The other side of it is there's a financial compliances, and there's also a Department of Defense that has compliances for companies that do business with them. It just so happens Kansas and Wichita has a lot of those manufacturing companies that do business with the military and defense that needs the compliance work. So that's really what we do. And I've been, in my previous life before starting Ember, I had worked for the KBI, the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, and that's where my first direction towards the working with the Department of Defense, the compliances that were needed, and the forensics is the step or the direction that I was took at that time, instead of just being the regular IT person. And that's the basis of how we came about to start Ember. And I would say 8-10 years now, or 10-12 years that I've been in this field with the compliance and security side of things.
And our government is at great risk for cyber security and all kinds of penetration. Who knows what? I don't even want to know, right?
I think the only thing, if you were to know or want to know, is China has built our same as our F-16s and Hummers and ammunitions, essentially just by we're not safeguarding our secrets and the giving importance to security. So that would be the, I guess, only one thing that I would say. China is at it. So are other countries wanted to get our intellectual property.
And we need to protect it.
Absolutely.
That's what you do. So
I'm hoping that we get there.
Yes. And I'm sure it's evolving. Just as you're there, there's something else undiscovered that we definitely have to figure out. So where do you want to take the company, or where do you see the company long term?
So long term, and this one of the new things that is happening is this Department of Defense compliances that came down, and that happened right around COVID, before COVID. And what that is fairly new of the compliances. The idea before that was the companies will report that they are compliant and secure. But now Department of Defense created this third entity to come out and do the assessments and audits to make sure. So that piece is new. So a lot of the companies are still understanding how this assessments will happen. What do they need to get ready for? So the goal that has been, since we focused more on this side, is to really be the value add for a lot of the companies who do work in defense, and be the subject matter expert for them to reach out to us. We have, in the course of last 2 years, done multiple of webinars, a small conference, quite a bit of consulting and education part of it as to what they need to do, how to get there, how to be in the business with the military. So the goal is really to get to the point when somebody says, I need compliances for the Department of Defense, which is called a CMMC, I want us to be the one that they think of. So that's really the goal.
And many of your, I think I got this out after looking at your website. Many of the people who need to be in compliance may not even know at what level they need to be in compliance. So there's a lot of what you do around education also.
Yes. And I think, it's, to give you an example, if a company that actually does marketing or they make promotional products for, let's say, our base here, they would need to be compliant because they're in possession of the logo, be it the Air Force Base logo, the badges that they may make. So those need to be secured, those need to be protected as well. And those companies, printing companies, might go, I don't do anything. Well, you have something, somebody could make their ID using that logo,
Right.
using that stuff, and gain
Mhm.
access to the Air Force Base or Fort Riley base or something along those lines. So those companies also need to adhere to some compliance and cybersecurity compliances that they need to have. So
Okay.
that's the piece. A lot of, like you mentioned, a lot of these companies don't know,
Hmm.
should I be compliant? And that's where we spend more of the time educating, asking those questions and saying, yes, you do. And then at that point, we really tell them to get to where you need to, these are the things you need to do. If you have somebody, great. We are here to help them, hold their hand, walk through that process.
Okay. Well, I think what you offer is a great service. And it is interesting how much technology and military and secret things there are in Wichita, Kansas,
Oh, definitely. Yes.
where we are.
Yeah,
Right. So,
definitely. Yeah.
so let's see. What's your biggest learning from the pandemic, and how has your approach to business changed over the last 2 years?
I think the pandemic was two things happened. One for us was in some ways, you know, a lot of the general public never see this, is technology, the people in the technology field were overworked because everybody wanted to work from home. And I think nobody prepared for it. And all of a sudden, you're trying to implement technologies, the various aspects of how do you get people to be working from home. That was a bit of a learning curve in the sense how fast we had to make it work. And it worked. I mean, it's not
Mm-hmm.
that, I think it's something that could have been implemented or taken 5 years for all the companies to adapt. It happened within the matter of 4 months,
Right.
type of situation. So that was the thing that we knew the technology is there, but we never really leveraged it. Now we
Mm-hmm.
know it can be done. So that was one of the great things that came out of it, I think. The freedom of people working from home, the ones who like to, or the people who are social butterflies who hate it now, but either case. But yeah, same here. There's
Yeah.
only so much you can
Uh-huh.
do from home.
Okay.
I think the second piece on more on a personal level, I think, and a lot of the companies probably don't think of this. We plan for and we have insurance and those type of things for any disasters that happens. But I think you don't expect and plan to lose employees, lose business partners, lose those people around you. And I think COVID was one of those moments that I think a lot of us learned
Mm-hmm.
that how important it is to either the share information, have a backup for a person that may be the crucial person in your business. Those are, I think, those things are the ones that really came out as to because we don't think about losing people that easily.
Right.
We think about insurance. We think, oh, we have a disaster, we have tornado, we have this, but we never put human value in that as to how critical and how important role they may be playing in your company until you lose them. So that's the second lesson, I should say. It was a learning for me out of the COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know you had a personal experience with that.
Yes.
Yeah, I know that it's one of those things we think we're going to get to in
Yes.
personal and in business. Well, I'm going to get to
Definitely.
that, that intellectual property that belongs in
Yep.
someone's head.
Yeah.
If they leave by choice, or if there's a tragedy of some kind, how do we recover from that? And
Yeah.
sometimes people don't.
It'll be tough, and I think we sometimes kind of, like you said, the best example I'll give you is people who might enjoy the idea of backyard gardening. They have it, but they're like, yeah, I'll get to it. I'll pull the weeds next week, or I'll do this, and it doesn't always happen until you make a priority. I think that's
Okay.
somewhat of a example I think I could use or throw at is, but we need to actively think about it. People, I mean, I think we talk about how the great resignation is happening, and I'm sure there's a lot of companies seeing that knowledge and the process that's been lost. And it may be that the people are unhappy and that's why they're leaving. So they're not as susceptible to sharing that information. So that's something I think a lot of companies don't plan on it or have a backup plan on. And of course, the tragedy we experienced
Right,
is
right.
much more different that had not been
Mhm.
planned. And we always think that it will live forever.
Right. Yeah.
Go through that, but yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. So let's see. How have you changed your thinking over the past 2 years, and how has that worked?
I think the basic thing that as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, one suggestion I would have is to focus on gratitude on what we have. Um, because I think a lot of times in the hustle of what we're doing, we miss that part. We're always focused on where we should be, where we should be. What we never really sit down and say, "Oh man, I'm happy, I'm glad," or reflect upon what we had to where we are now. I think we don't spend as much time on doing that. I think that's one lesson I would suggest. Don't be hard on yourself too much, because you will get there, because you know yourself, you have that drive to get where you want to be. So at least take a moment, appreciate people around you, people within your organization, your clients, your customers. Take that moment. And I think COVID actually reminded us of that in some ways. Appreciate what we have. I think that is one thing, at least for me, changed somewhat of a perspective on it, to appreciate what we have. And we are in the business to achieve certain goals. So that piece, I think we'll get there no matter what, because you have the drive, you have the right team around you. So that is the piece that I came to recognition, that COVID said, oh, take a break. You have good people around you. You have assets that you may not have thought about. With that in mind, I think my thought process has changed. Not that I'm not as aggressive in meeting the goals, but I think I'm more strategic with it. In the sense, yeah, I have this goal. I need to get to getting this many companies compliant. And I'm saying, okay, let me get this. And quality over quantity, providing and meeting that expectations instead of trying to fill just the numbers. I think that's the piece that I have changed a little bit on that part, I think, to put it into perspective, I think.
Interesting. Many great leaders, when they come to do their annual talk or whatever, you're expecting them to show you the new skinny MacBook or something, but maybe what they're really going to say is, look, let's just be happy where we are. And how much better can we accomplish if we appreciate I think gratitude is the highest form of vibration.
I think so.
Highest form of vibration, then happiness, I think. And gratitude is just, it's a magical thing. So the fact that you brought that up, I love that. I wasn't expecting that. I mean, I just met you, so I have been watching some of the things you post on LinkedIn, and I can tell you have a more of an intrinsic strategy plan. And yeah,
definitely. And I think, one of the phrase that I really dislike, I'm not going to use the word hate, because hate is a strong word, but dislike is people always use this term saying business is business. Whatever it may be, right? I mean, if you lose a client, get a client, lose an employee, you say, it's business. But for me, it's not. I mean, you're building relationships, and it's more of that. I mean, money is the byproduct of your relationship, but to use that phrase, it's just business. I dislike it so much.
Yeah, business is life.
It is. And you build relationships around it. You make families out of it. I mean, there's so much that goes on it. And just to throw this phrase, I just, not consider it at all.
Yeah,
but again, not to get on my soapbox there, but yeah.
Noted. I love it. Sure. So since you've been in business, and before we started to record, you said you have, you might want to talk about some of the other businesses you've been involved in, but what's the biggest learning for you since you've been a business owner?
I think the people would be the main thing. I think understanding the people you work with and people that work for you, or even in the case you're working for, understanding that personalities and really putting the right people in the right places, I think is critical. And the minute you understand people and their strengths and weaknesses, and where you can complement those weaknesses and make them stronger. I think that's the biggest thing that I've, over the course of time in various different businesses, more in the restaurant industry that I had, or the coffee business and the donut business that I was part of, the more you build your employees and the leaders within that company and the organization, business will continue on. I think understanding somebody's personality, how well they work, I think is the biggest thing. And the learnings, at least I had, because one funny story I'll share with you, I had at one time a donut shop and a pizzeria. What I learned was at the pizza place, we were shorthanded. I said to somebody from donut shops, like, hey, can you help us out here? That was an eye-opening experience, because our culture in donut shop was very different from the pizza shop. And this person just could not work in the pizza shop. And that was a shocker and eye-opener for me. I was thinking, work is work, but it wasn't. I mean, because of the coffee and the donut shop, the culture, as in the customers that come in, is completely different than a pizzeria. And the experience that the people come in for is different. And that, personally, I never thought of it until that happened. And I said, wow, this is something I thought I knew I could work with. I knew this person would work well here, but it wasn't the case. So that was interesting.
Wow. You know, I've heard it said Trump, or culture trumps policy every time,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
It's so
absolutely
true.
it does.
And even a culture within departments in a company. You know,
Yes.
you're in the accounting department, you go to work in the payables department, and the culture shifted, and you
Definitely.
may or may not do well in that. So very
Yes.
interesting insight to that.
Yeah, it was.
Well, are there any offers or announcements you want to talk about? So this newsletter will go out to several thousand people. I don't know how many will go out to the video. So I mean, people find you if they need you, I think, but what would you like to tell us or say?
I think so. Within this new compliances with the Department of Defense, a lot of either misinformation is out there, or people not aware of when does that certification need to be implemented. Those are a few of the things that people are not aware of. So I have a few speaking engagements that are coming up, which most likely I'll post it on LinkedIn as they come up, to share with that people, because it's being finalized with a lot of these places, when it'll be, what it'll be. And hopefully I'm working on a few short video type thing, just a quick tidbits on how to achieve compliance, how to achieve cybersecurity type of thing. So hopefully we'll start doing that this next month and implement that on LinkedIn. But I don't have any big announcements, so to speak, of anything, but yeah.
All right. Are you, I'm just curious, are you on TikTok?
TikTok? No, I'm not. I have a TikTok account just to monitor my kids as to what they're watching. But but it turns out that I get sucked into it as well.
Yeah, and I guess maybe that's not your target market today, but it could be someday. Who knows?
And I think there's quite a few people that I've come across who talk about cybersecurity on it and give tips and things of that nature on it. I don't know yet enough about TikTok. I think at least I know enough to watch the videos and lose a couple hours in it. But
isn't that interesting how that happens? But the little pieces of information that seem to keep us occupied in our brain, and
absolutely, yes.
Yeah, so it's probably not the high level cyber stuff that you're working on, but it's still, if people are educated about security through TikTok, that's a good thing.
It is in some ways, yes, absolutely.
Well, I'm glad you're keeping up with your kids.
Yes.
That's great. So I want to thank you for your time. What was most inspiring about today, about our conversation?
What is most inspiring? I think the idea that hopefully I'll get to learn from other entrepreneurs. I think is what I'm looking forward to. And I think everybody has a story to tell. And I think we tend to speak more than listen. And I'm working on listening aspect of it. So I'm hoping that I will be a better listener and learning more from your the sessions and the podcast and the videos that you have out there.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, you are Tariq Azmi, and you are the co-founder of Ember Technologies, started right here in Wichita, Kansas, which is also where I am located. And I want to thank you very much for your time today.